Good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock. And Holly has given me the thumbs up that we're ready to roll, so I'll call our meeting to order. And before I begin, I want to recognize and acknowledge the traditional keepers of this land with whom we share today. The Township of Southgate is a part of the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, Haudenosaunee, and Saugeen Métis. The land that surrounds us is part of who we are as it reflects our histories. May we live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Madam Clerk, is there anybody registered for open forum?
No, not today.
Thank you. Could I have confirmation of the agenda as presented? Barb? Jason? Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest related to any item on today's agenda? Seeing none, if one should arise during the meeting, you can declare it at that time. We have one delegation registered. Oh, there he is. There's the name. Sorry, I was looking. Donald Malott is here to talk about a no truck route. And so I welcome you to the meeting, Donald. If you want to turn your camera on and your microphone, the floor is yours, sir.
Hi, all. Perfect. Thank you. Not sure if you want to do the delegation now or at the end.
Now's good, please. Yep.
Okay, so I live on Southgate Side Road 11. Lived here since 2019 spring. Since then, we've seen the road go back to gravel, and then just recently, as of this fall, be resurfaced with blacktop. I'm assuming at a substantial cost. Since then, there has been a new gravel pit installed on County Road 16, which is not in our township. It's actually south of 89 in Wellington. And since that gravel pit and the repaving of Side Road 11, the amount of trucks that are using Side Road 11 as a shortcut to go north has increased substantially, to the point where it's going to start deteriorating the road. Further to the truck traffic, the speed is an issue. It's a narrow road, which I'm not sure was designed from the beginning to accommodate such large trucks and the amount of vehicular traffic. So it's to the point where we can't safely use the road for walking or anything like that, or any kind of activities like bicycling for my kids or rollerblading, other than driving. So my proposal would be to introduce a no truck route on Southgate Side Road 11.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does council have any questions for clarification on the delegation? I think we all know where the road is. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate your time today, sir, and thank you for the information you've provided council. We will certainly take that into consideration as we go forward with any further decisions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So I need a motion to receive the delegation, Barb and Martin. All those in favor? That is carried. Again, thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Adoption of the minutes of the February 21st council, 21st, not 21st. And the closed session of that same meeting and the special meeting of that same date. Someone care to move those adoption of those minutes? Barb and Jim, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Reports of municipal officers. We have our treasurer here this morning, Taylor McMahon. Taylor, floor is yours. Oh, I need a motion to consider approval of the bylaw. Jim and Joan, you second that? Thank you very much. Taylor, the floor is yours, please.
Morning, everyone. So I have two tile drain applications in this morning. Sorry, I'm short on the name, but I think all the details are in the report if you have any further questions related to them.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Taylor? Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, it says in the financial, excuse me, financial implications. The OMAFRA does most of it. Finance staff will administer the loan. Do we get some kind of fee back as far as time for you guys to look after the loan?
To my understanding, we don't. We just act as a flow through for
Okay.
that.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
Yep.
Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next item is the rating bylaw related to that tile drain loan. Someone care to move that, please? Martin, thank you. Seconder? Jim, thank you. Anything to add on the bylaw, Taylor? No? Okay. Any questions on the bylaw? Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next is a bylaw related to another bylaw or another tile drainage loan. Someone care to move that, please? Martin or Jason rather, and Joan will second. Any comments, Taylor? No? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Taylor. Don't be so talkative next time though, okay? Try to keep it down. We're in a hurry here. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't we all? Absolutely. Absolutely. The next report is from our clerk, Lindsay Green. It's related to an unopened section of Side Road 13 between Southgate Road 26 and the Artemisia Southgate Town Line. Would someone care to move that, please? Joan will move. Martin will second. Lindsay, morning.
Morning. Thank you, Mayor Milne, through you. We had this request come in through our planning department first to from a neighbor there that wants to purchase. They explained that they have been looking after the land as if it's kind of their own, is what they explained to me. And they've been interested for quite a few years now in purchasing the land. I don't know in the past if anything's been brought to council with it, but I don't believe there was. So we had our planning consultant, Bill, look at this, and Jim Ellis also looked at this. So bringing this information forward, it's all pretty much in the report there. So I guess I'll just take questions, and hopefully between Jim and myself, we can answer them. And Bill is on the screen, so I'm sure if there's questions from Bill or for Bill too, then he can help us.
All right. Thank you very much. Before I ask for questions, Jim, do you want to make any comments or?
Good morning, good people. This section of road would lead to the Artemisia Southgate Town Line. The area is very constrained with environmental challenges. I do not see us proceeding and building this road in the near future or in the future. So I would support the disposal of the lands.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. And Bill, do you have anything to add before we go to questions?
Thank you, Mayor Milne. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add. I think it was very concisely summarized there.
Yep, no, it was a good report. All right, thank you. Thank you, Bill and Jim. Any questions for our staff? Barb?
Through you, Mayor Milne. Good morning, everyone. To the clerk, the prepare the lands for sale, would that include a market value assessment, and that would come back, and then this is just to declare it surplus and carry
Yep.
on through the process that we've come to know?
Yeah, that's right. It would still follow our sale of land and disposition bylaw and follow that process. This is just to declare.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Lindsay. Public Works Manager, Jim Ellis. He's got a report here regarding the crushing, loading and hauling of road gravel, basically, I think is what it is. So I'll ask if someone would move the motion. Barb, seconded by Monica. Thank you. Jim, the floor is yours, sir.
This is standard operations for us, and the stockpiling is for our road construction project, culvert replacements. So the extra funds will be coming out of those capital projects towards those gravel needs. So the only other thing is a little delay in operations this year has been mentioned to council due to getting the new pit up and running at Hopewell, or well, not Hopewell, but in Proton. So we'll be out there, but it'll be a little month or so behind this year.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Is it the north half or the south half this year? Just say yes. It's the opposite from last year.
Yeah.
We'll go there. All right.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Jim. Any questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Jim. Chief Administrative Officer Dina Lundy has at least one report. She has two, actually. First one is on a community development planning report. Someone care to move that, please? Martin, thank you. Seconder. Joan, thank you. Dina, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is actually quite exciting. It is coming forward with starting to actually plan what the township has been working on for several years. The township has been planning a multi-use facility for many years and collecting development charges towards expansion in several of the areas of services due to growth of the community. And this report kind of brings about an opportunity for the land that the township has been working towards. One of the biggest challenges for designing community space has been acquiring enough space to bring together these services. So with the MZO at the Ida Street location, it has brought lands into the settlement area with the correct zoning for us to be able to bring forward community facilities. So in this instance, we have and I'm sure council is aware of the lands at the rear of the cemetery that we are rezoning in order to exchange a portion of the lands that are on Gray Road 9 as depicted in the report. And the developer has been very amenable to allowing the township to obtain close to 16 acres of this property so that several facilities can be built. So at this time, we are looking forward to bringing that forward. And additionally, the township has been progressing towards development of sports fields with our eco park. Now, these are lands that the township already owns west of the rail trail, behind, I guess if to visualize it is behind the lagoon lands, in between the lagoon lands and the rail trail. And at this area, we're looking to progress towards building soccer fields, baseball, softball, and additional parking there. So this is exciting for the community as well. Once we start bringing this development forward through the Eco Park Phase 2 development and the design of that road to Eco Parkway extension to Highway 10, I think this is a very exciting development as well for the community. So we're looking to just continue this and bring it forward to the public just to kind of let them know what's going on and how we're progressing towards the facilities, and that council continue or allow staff to continue this work.
Very good. Thank you, Dina. Any questions? Monica, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that. Just through you, Chair, to the CAO. As we know that there is a reduced space right now for other pressing matters. So just in the interest of the public, where these questions are just asked, if there was a question, for example, when people are wondering about the school and if we're making space to do a multi-use facility, sometimes the question will be like, well, we're making space for that. What's going on with the school? And I know we've had a labored discussion and staff and council have been working extremely diligent in regards to the school space and working with through delegations with the ministry. So that's all been ongoing. To relate it back to this multi-use facility, could you just kind of give a clarification as to why the space is being made for this, and then what's going on with the school, as that question may come up. And that could kind of answer the other needs that are in the community, whether it's grocery stores and all the recreation facilities, that will all kind of answer that. I was hoping if you could shed some light.
Thank you, Monica.
Um,
Dina?
I'll do my best. So the school is actually part of another development. And the township has been working extremely hard, as you say, lobbying the provincial government and working with the school board. And the school board has been working directly with the developer to obtain land in another development that will hopefully move forward. The school board has put forward a capital plan, and we're hoping that the province approves that. And right now it is in the province's hands as to whether that school or when that school is approved. So that is the school part of it. There are a lot of things going on, I guess, as you can say, simultaneously. With this development, we're looking to bring forward our master plan to development in stages over years, and how we're going to lay out this property at Ida Street. And we're hoping that not only does it serve the needs of the community, but it might also drive traffic through the main street downtown to this facility, as well as with the Eco Park phase 2, that being once the bypass does go through, it will drive traffic from Highway 10 directly to this area as well. So it's a good location for that, as well as all the demographics of the community can access this property. And I guess that's in short why we're looking at it globally as more of, Southgate. How do we bring all of the amenities that Southgate needs together, and all these things kind of are moving parts that all work together to kind of bring forward all of these different things.
And just a follow-up.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I really appreciate your comments, especially with regards to moving parts, as from my understanding and what I'm gleaning is that this is a very thoughtful and careful process on behalf of the staff, and working with the stakeholders and partnerships and collaborations that are in place, and just ensuring that we don't get stuck in the mud type of thinking that if one thing is not working this way, we have to continue with the other projects that will benefit our community and having those amenities. So thank you for that clarification, and it does help us to relay back the necessary information to the public. So again, just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Monica. And just to add what Dina was saying and reiterate, as most of you will know or recall, at the Roma conference, we did have a delegation with Minister Lecce, Minister of Education. And he did give us some very positive thinking. He made no commitments, of course, nor could he, but he did talk very positively of the project, the school in particular. So I know he's a busy man himself, as is the government, and the budget is coming up very soon. So we're looking for some very positive news from the provincial government regarding that school. I know the school board has been pushing hard too. So time will tell, but I'm going to hold him to his words. Barb.
Through you, thank you, Dina, for that update. I do know that Flato has published or advertised the development, which hasn't even actually been approved for subdivision, but the proposal is that it's on the north side of Dundalk. Will there require access to Highway 10, and what's being done to maybe light a fire under Ministry of Transportation to help with our entrance permits for our alternate accesses like the Eco Park?
Yes, and thank you, Chair, sorry. I believe you're speaking about the school, the Glenelg Phase 3's subdivision.
I believe so.
Yes.
It was just something that was put out there by Flato, and
Yeah.
I know we hadn't seen it here.
We haven't yet. It is, we're working on bringing it forward, or they're working on bringing it forward to draft plan approval. So there is a draft plan that we've been assisting the county and our planning staff, as well as the GRCA, have all been working together to kind of make the best plan that satisfies all of the agencies and really looks at the land itself, and the servicing to it is important as well. And in that draft plan, the township has been very adamant about keeping that block in that allows connection to Highway 10. So that has been very fruitful discussion, I will say, and the township has been very adamant about that particular piece of this property. And I believe the developer also wants that in place because of the lands to the east that they will also develop at a later stage and connect to Highway 10. So it really benefits everybody that that connection is in place for health and safety reasons, for service connections, fire routes, all that stuff, and particularly because of the traffic with the school. So we have been all collaborating very well, and we hope that that draft plan will be coming forward shortly.
Thank you. And through the mayor, there is, as you said previously, a lot of moving parts. And we definitely need a secondary or third access road. We can't have all of the traffic going through one main street. It's congested enough as it is. And as you said, buses, bus safety, school safety, all of that. Getting back to the 16 acres, it is a fairly low area. Has everything been factored in, or is this part of that moving forward process to evaluate what would need to be done to the property to bring it, whether it's to elevate the level, it's going to need fill, or do we have to do EIS studies, archaeological studies? All of that will be coming.
Through you, Mr.
Dina?
Mayor. Yes, sir. Sure. Absolutely. That is coming forward. And I know that the developers, engineers are already looking at where to put stormwater management. They've already looking towards the traffic study. And so they're doing the prep work for the development itself, and keeping in mind that the township development lands are there. And we really do have to work together to, put all those facilities in place, as far as stormwater management, servicing, and those types of things, and making sure that all the studies are done. So definitely that work is already kind of underway because of the MZO and the enhanced monitoring, and we're moving forward. So we have to 18 months to kind of move forward substantial work on these properties. So it is timely, and that's why we're working so hard to kind of bring what the community needs as well as the developments.
So I think to that point, we're by doing this exchange, we can benefit as a municipality from the work that they have to do as a result of the MZO in the first place, as opposed to having a separate property where we'd have to do all of that ourselves. So sounds like a path forward anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Comment and a question, I think, to Kevin. With the 16 acres of the swap, depending on how it's built and how it progresses, and since it's next to a residential development, hypothetically, down the road, could you change the zoning to residential for 1 or 2 acres if it's possible for multi-level housing? Would that be something to look at? And that's a question you can't answer right now, but it's just an idea. So if you want to try and answer it, that's fine. But
Yeah, at this time, I think we'll be tight with the 16 acres on all of the development that we want to do. And there is still significant land that is going to be developed for housing, not just the MZOs, but there are some other pieces of land that will come forward in our servicing strategy when Triton comes to bring that forward. They're still working on some technical aspects of that, but when they bring it forward, then you'll really be able to see all the plots of land that are available for housing. And I don't think that this property takes away from that. Whether it would change in the future, it's with the development of the land and what the community needs are. But I think that there's a lot of community development and we were very difficult to, it has been a roadblock trying to get land for building these things. So I would say that at this time, likely not would it move to housing, as I want to be fully transparent. But there is a lot of land out there that we could continue to develop for housing.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's true. 1 acre, you can put a lot of multi-level. And the reason I asked if this development only takes 13, then if there's that wiggle room. The question, so thank you. Kevin, looking at the new soccer pitches and baseball, what's going to happen to the ones in town? Are they going to be converted to cricket or are they going to still be there or? Thank you.
The one at Memorial Park, it creates problems right now. It'll just be returned back to casual use in the park because we find that there's a conflict between the residents of the community and organized sports. So the one downtown in Memorial Park will probably just switch it over to passive use. The one behind the arena, the Pat Dale's Diamond, it's large enough that we foresee softball is sort of dying out, but baseball, because the Blue Jays are successful right now again, is taking over. So that diamond's actually big enough that we could play baseball out of it, not softball. We're basing our decision on our needs on a community of 10,000 people, which I assume we're going to get there eventually. So, but yeah, we're not giving up anything. We're creating more.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Kevin and Dina. Any other questions? Jason?
I got a couple. Just to Kevin's point there, like, what are we at now? 8,000 people? Like, I don't see the ball. I don't know. I struggle with this. I get we have to move forward with development, but so population growth of 2,000 more people, we're going to need all these more diamonds and stuff. Like, I just can't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just a question to you, Kevin. Like, they're not full now. I mean, I know some people use them, but tell them to drive out to Hopeville where we got a nice diamond. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the problem with development and growth and future. No one has a crystal ball. And so a lot of our decisions in our recreation management plan or whatever is based on what other communities of similar size have and their needs. So yes, but when it comes time to actually develop a lot of this stuff, I think we need to probably travel and visit a few communities and say, hey, is this maxed out? Is this not maxed out? But a lot of it right now is just, we're trying to make the best decision we can make for a community that's growing faster than we're prepared to really understand. So Shelburne, I know they're running 4 or 5 diamonds and they need more diamonds. So a lot of it it's just what organizations start and develop. Like right now, we're not overrun with slow pitch. Other communities, slow pitch is taking all their diamonds. Another thing, pickleball has taken over every community except for ours. Now, is it because we don't promote it because I don't have the facilities for it to take over? But it's just trying to make the best decision for the future.
That's it?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
thanks,
all right.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I guess maybe it's more of a comment. I get with growth, we need a facility, we need more room. But ever since I've heard of the growth coming to Dundalk, everybody tells me that growth pays for, or development pays for development. Well, I don't think it does. Is development going to pay for this whole big facility? I have quite a few concerns. Like, I still think it should be in the central part of the township in the Hopeville area. We talk about foot traffic. I can't see anybody walking from out by the new subdivision, like out McDonald's Way, all the way to this spot. We hear all the time that There's less foot traffic coming into the Hopeville office, so why is it going to, I get what everybody's trying to do. I guess it's still stuck in my craw, this $80,000 to go to consultants. I think if the people here, the department heads, staff, if we don't know what we need and how we want to design it, who does? And I guess it's just more of a comment. I don't know. It's just, have we ever asked Flatto, the main developer, maybe he could pay for half it because development, have we ever threw that question out to him? I don't know. It's just different thing. It just seems like a lot of money for the amount of, if we go to 10,000 people or 12,000 people. I don't understand why you need all these facilities for another 4,000, but the 8,000 that are here now aren't using half them and they don't need them now. It just, I don't know. It's just more of a comment, I guess. If somebody wants to comment on that, they can. If not,
Thank you, Jason. Anybody have a run at it? Nope. All right. Well, good comments. Good comments. All right, Barb, go ahead.
I wondered if I could share some population information since it's been brought up. I asked Dina actually this earlier this week, what our current population was. And wow, did I get an email full of statistics. But we are currently, if we use the formula of 2.66 per household, which is what the census uses, and we all know that our housing today there's far more than 2.66 people occupying those homes. Some of them in Dundalk are upwards of 10 and 12. And our farming community would average, 5 or 6 or more. But let's use the 2.66 as a census. And based on 3,401 permanent resident dwellings now versus 2,710 in 2016, our population is 9,739. We know that there's more than 2.66 people in a household in our area anyway. So we have already exceeded 10,000, with almost 4,000 of those people being in Dundalk, where we used to be maybe a third. We're now approaching, almost half. And I think that's where it's headed, where population of Dundalk is going to be at least 50% of all of Southgate going forward. And that's based on 2023 numbers of water connections, and not all households in Dundalk are connected to our water system yet. It's very few that aren't, but there are still a few on wells. I found the statistics really interesting, and we've gone from 2,710 permanent residents to 3,401 permanent resident dwellings in 2023.
Thank you, Barb. Indeed, those are interesting numbers. I'll go to Monica first and then Jason.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just to the point of the statistics, I would love to have a copy of that. Could that kindly be circulated? Thank you so much, CAO. And just to follow up to that was, I understand that there has been an increase in the population, as it's a no-brainer, I guess we could all say, and definitely an increase in our portfolio and overall assessment as counselors, and increase in a lot of aspects that does touch and reach. With that also being said, are these statistics available on our Township of Southgate website?
Thank you, through your worship. Not per se. We have to use calculations and building permits and census data. So that's what I use to do the calculations to kind of come up with an estimate, and I'll certainly forward that to all of council to understand. But when we go through our DC study, which we're currently doing, there also will be those population numbers that will be accessible. The 2022 DC study is actually out there and on our website, I believe, but I can double check that. But the 2022 DC study did project 9,400 for 2023 as a population, and we've exceeded that. So when we do our new DC study, you'll see some more population projections that'll come forward. And perhaps you might see some of that in our servicing strategy as well.
And just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. And to CAO, to Councillor Rice's point, with regards to the 80,000, was there any other considerations in regards to that 80,000? Is this kind of like a going rate that just to have it in the reserves, just so it's there, it's not an exact number, or is there a possibility that it could be something at a lower cost?
It's very possible. We canvassed, it's just a budget number at this point. We haven't done an RFP. It's just a placeholder in the budget that is being used from reserves funds. It's not on tax dollars, but it is kind of a placeholder. And we did contact 3 different firms that do this kind of work. And it's more technical work. Just to Councillor Rice's points, it's technical work that the staff at the township don't have the ability to do. So there is a lot of technicality to bringing some of the master plan forward. So it'll be an architectural firm that would do it, and we would do an RFP, and that would come back to council.
Thank you. Jason.
I guess it's just one more comment. I think we got to remember that we're Southgate, we're not Dundalk. And as I said again, I guess I got my backup over it, but we're Southgate. What's this multi-use facility going to do for the person in Holstein or Ventry? I'm just putting it out there. We're Southgate, and it's Dundalk, and I hear it a lot, and I hear it myself. I think that it's big Mennonite population. I don't know how many Mennonite kids are out here. What are we doing for them? We're doing nothing. But then again, they don't want nothing, and they don't vote, so that doesn't matter, right? I think that's what I don't know. We're Southgate. We're not Dundalk. That's just a comment.
And if I could take a little bit of a run at that, I would suggest that you're right. We are Southgate. And I think we need to be careful to say what's in it for me and say what's in it for Southgate. We provide a lot of services at the West End for the residents at the West End that we buy from other communities. Traditionally, or at least over the last number of years, the East End, we tend to provide services directly from the municipality, whereas in the West End, we tend to buy the services, whether it's library, recreation, or otherwise, from our neighbors. And generally, I would suggest that it has worked fine. And I think it will continue to work fine, that model. But I really don't think it's helpful to start saying, what's in it for me? Or what's in it for him or her? I think what's good for Southgate is good for all of Southgate. It's like saying, why does Vancouver get something from the federal government? What are you doing for Ontario? That doesn't help the conversation overall. We need to be united, and I think we are for the most part. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Jason.
So I guess I have a question to you then, Mr. Mayor. So if I hear those comments, we're not supposed to bring that. Like, I get what you're saying. You have to be united, but everybody always taught how it feels good. Like feelings don't matter. I don't think. Like I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but so those concerns don't matter.
I didn't say
No,
that.
well,
I didn't say that. Everybody has an opinion, and that's good.
That's great.
Otherwise, what are we doing here? But anyway, I think we'll bring it back to the motion. So the motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any further questions on the motion itself? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Sorry, who does?
Joan.
Joan, did you have a question? Sorry, go ahead, Joan. Oh yeah, I see it there. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through the chair. I just wanted to comment on some of the things that Councillor Rice said. And then you spoke about the resident of Dundalk, and then you said if somebody is going to leave from Olstein to come to Dundalk, if the facility is built there, but also are the residents of Dundalk willing to drive to Dromore to use the facilities? And we also have to bear in mind the increase in the population, and people, their taxpayers are moving here and they're buying houses. And we always said, you want to live, work, and play where you are. And I do understand about the the $80,000 and how big it seems now, but we still need facilities, not just for Dundalk, for the entire Southgate. And if there is a new facility, I am sure that people would leave from other places. You also touch a little bit on the Mennonites, that they don't want nothing or they don't do nothing. I guess they participate in some different ways, because I am in the schools a lot, reading in classroom and doing other stuff. And I guess because they are in school, they do participate. I am quite surprised sometimes the questions they ask and the things that they do. And I guess it's because they're younger and they're in the classroom. We even, Deputy Mayor and myself, went to a classroom where they had an election process, and some of the Mennonite children, they had their own process and they did very well dealing with everybody else in the classroom, I guess, because again, they're in the classroom and they can do things there, but they don't participate once they're adults. But just to your point, I know what you're thinking about the taxpayers and Basin. It's not Dundalk, it's not Southgate, is everywhere. And I do believe that, of course, it is Southgate, but the facility is well needed. And if we're gonna have a population that is gonna go over 10,000, and not everybody plays softball, not everybody plays cricket or the other game, but so we need a soccer field, we need other things that the other residents that are moving here, that are being promised things, that are being told whatever, and they're not gonna sell their house to go back to wherever they're coming from, because then they won't be able to afford it there. So no matter how we cut it, we still have to bear in mind that we have to improve on some of the facilities that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Okay, Martin, go ahead.
Just a comment. 20 years ago, I guess it's since we amalgamated, right? 20 years?
Like 2000.
Yeah, 2000. And
Year
living in
2000, not 2000 years ago.
No, that would be, is that EC or BC or whatever, it doesn't matter. The point being though, 20 years ago, living in the old Proton, there was a lot of farmers, not Mennonites. Their kids used the facilities. Now they don't. So things change, and things are changing in Dundalk with all the new housing. As far as Southgate goes, as taxes, I pay taxes for the water tower in Dundalk. I don't use any water from Dundalk, but it's there and it's a good thing to have. So that's Southgate. So we do have to unite in that. So that's it.
Thanks, Martin. All right. Jason, you want to have another run at it?
No, I just want to make a comment tomorrow. I understand, but you need water. You don't need a cricket field for 3 people or a softball field for 10 people. That's just my comment.
Build it and they won't come.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Jim, you want to make a comment?
Just to clarify on Martin's point there, general taxation does not pay for the water tower. It's the water users of the system. So Dundalk residents are paying for the tower. The residents in Holstein are not paying for that tower.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you, Jim.
Monica.
Just through you, Chair, I would just like to add that I'm very optimistic that there's an understanding that our population is growing, things are evolving, things are changing, that things may have been different at one point, and now going year to year even, things are changing. So it's very positive and very optimistic that that is understood. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. It is really heartening to see the passion, no matter what your opinion is. It's heartening to see the passion in our community and how it's going to go forward. So thank you all for your comments. Okay.
So, Mayor, just one last comment. Just one.
Sure.
5 seconds. Just to Councillor Rice's point, I find that his vantage point and perspective, along with the rest of the members of council, we have a very robust council. We have generational farmers and we have new people. So it's a great bridge, great conversations, great discussions. So I just wanted to add that, and that's it. I promise.
Very good. Thank you, Monica. All right, let's bring the question forward. All those in favor of the motion that's on the table? No, Joan's still there. All those in favor, I'll call again. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our CAO's second report. It's on an organizational review implementation. for 2024 and going forward. Would someone care to move that, please? Monica, second. Joan will second. Thank you. Dina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess along the same lines of the growth that we're experiencing, the township is changing. And so when council approved this organizational review, it was a very important step to take, and will be followed up later this year with a service delivery review. The organizational review was very well done, and as well garnered a lot of participation from the staff, which was really great. Sometimes you don't see that much participation, but we had a lot of participation, which was good. And it found several strengths of the township, including, collective interest in meeting the expectations of the public and council, opportunities for infrastructure expansion and bringing some of those economic development and as well as community things forward. So those are a lot of the strengths, as well as the community strategic plan was very well aligned with what the township and township staff were thinking as well. So that was another strength. In summary of some of the things that we can work on are, the township has a definite interest in delivering cost-effective services, but does have challenges with the service demands that keep growing and the limited financial and staff resources. So it was found that the structure and functions are not sufficient, and the systems and processes require review and modernization to effectively support those things. And that will also come with the service delivery review that we do later on this year, hopefully. It was also found that the township is very reactive rather than proactive in all of the services that we do bring forward, and that we need a stronger approach towards strategic planning and interdepartmental collaboration. And which is really important to bring forward the elevated services that the township and the residents are now expecting. And so they should. So at the end of the day, don't want to belabor all the points of my report. So the report is publicly available, but there are some structure changes that we're going forward with, which includes the addition of 2 senior managers. Senior Manager of Development and Community Services will direct planning, building, recreation, and economic development. And Senior Manager of Corporate Services will direct finance, clerks, human resources, and community and strategic initiatives. One of those managers will be recruited this year, depending on recruitment, and the other one in 2025. And some administration positions are an executive assistant to the CAO, fire department administration assistant. I should also comment that health and safety, the responsibility and overarching responsibilities relating to health and safety and the health and safety programs will move to emergency management under the fire chief. And so that administrative assistant will be very helpful in bringing our health and safety up to date and bringing it throughout the organization. So that is another position, as well as communications and strategic initiatives this year, which is another a deficient area that the township needs assistance with. And the building department is also going to implement a building inspector or plans examiner, mainly focusing on plans examining to assist with review of files that come in. And further in time, a lot further alignment will happen. A compensation review was also done, which really shows that the work that was done by our internal HR in 2022 to be implemented in 2023 was really good work. We are mostly maintaining the 50th percentile, which is really good. But there is one band on our salary grid that will be up to 2% to maintain the 50th percentile of those positions that are in that band. And I believe that is pay band 13. And that's attached to this report as well. So at this time, $243,903 has been approved and added to the 2024 budget, which is not all tax impact due to the building department impacts. And we'll begin implementation of those positions as soon as possible. With phased in implementation, we'll see 2025 and 2026 budgets impacted as well with the org review. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Dina. Any questions? Monica?
Thank you, Chair. Just through you to the CAO. Thank you for your comprehensive report. My question is surrounded around myself being a frontline part-time municipal worker for many years. And we did have something called municipal part-time benefits for long-term contracts, normally would be 13 to 18 months, or permanent employees. In this review, I see like the compensation review, which is good to do. Has that been something that could be extended to part-time employees at the Township of Southgate? Because that came to my recent understanding, and maybe I had missed that in so much of the discussion, or maybe I didn't miss it, but is that something that's ever been considered for the township employees who are part-time? If they already are receiving it, maybe I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, it is part of our, I guess, compensation package that part-time employees are considered. I can certainly give, if you want more detail, and pass it over to Kayla to give you more detail on that.
Kayla?
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, so part-time employees that have 25 hours a week or more guaranteed year-round are part of our health benefits. And then permanent part-time employees that would be less than that do still have access to a healthcare spending account. They don't have our third-party benefits, but they do have a smaller amount in a healthcare spending account.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just through you, Chair. Thank you for that clarification. I thank you very much for that because there was, some information brought forward that was not the case. From my understanding at what I read. And so now that you have mentioned that, that's very important. So thank you, CAO and HR manager for that.
Okay, Monica. Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Kayla. It's 10 to 10. Does anybody feel the need for a recess? All right, let's recess and we'll come back at 10 o'clock or thereabouts. All right, welcome everybody back to our meeting. We'll bring the meeting back to order. The next report is from the planning department. And it is regarding a zoning bylaw amendment for, well, whatever that number is, the developer that is listed. Okay, I need a motion to provide direction. Jim, seconded by Jason, thank you. Bill, you want to comment on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor Milne. Council will recall the Public Planning Committee meeting held on this matter regarding a property at 191 Hagen Street West. It's a property that stretches between Gold Street and Hagen Street. That began with the public meeting notice given in December, and the matter's also been before Committee of Adjustment for conditional severance approval. That was January 24th, the same day as the Public Planning Committee meeting. We had some controversy as far as this application with the neighbors. There's a summary of their comments kind of referenced in the report later on, relating to traffic and safety and parking and integration with the neighborhood. We had a deferral request February 9th from Cuesta Planning, and Cuesta is participating in the meeting. And February 21st, you approved that deferral with this matter to be brought back today. Staff gave notice to members of the public and agencies who had, I'll call that, participated in the public meeting, basically persons who had written or spoke to you during the meeting. At this meeting, we're asking you to give direction on where to proceed. You can do this under section 3417 of the Planning Act. So it's up to you whether you wish to give further notice on this matter. Subsequent to our report being prepared, Cuesta did submit some supplementary information on their position in response to my staff report. And that was very helpful and struggling, I guess, for lack of a better way of trying to integrate this development in the community. It's a interesting lot because it's 15 meters wide or 50 feet wide, and it's 45 meters roughly deep. So it's a through lot, so it has streets on both sides. So in days gone by, it's probably an oversized single family lot. But today, with the need for housing, with the need for maximizing use of municipal services, there needs to be a reconsideration of just allowing for deep single family lots. And the province has made that clear with many of the initiatives that they put forward. We go through the official plan compliance, starting with the county official plan. We all know that this is a primary settlement area, and that the Planning Act, planning policy, and the township official plan directs growth primarily to settlement areas where municipal water and sewer is available. And throughout the official plan, throughout provincial policy and the county plan, there are various sections that strongly encourage the kind of intensification we're talking about, particularly where it leads to providing affordable housing. And the township plan talks about 30% of the annual housing expenses do not exceed 30% of the gross household income. I don't know whether this kind of housing that's being proposed here would be considered that, but when you start to increase densities like we're talking about, the chances of it being more affordable increase. This density we're being talked about is about 58 units per hectare. That is slightly above what would be the medium density criteria, but it's not quite high density, which tends to be around 75 units per hectare. So we're still running around what would be normally medium density development with 4 units on this property. Couple of things about the official plan. It talks about ensuring built form is compatible without undue adverse impacts, and the word dwarfing of buildings, shadowing views, noise, traffic, that's all in the official plan. We had a short conversation about shadowing. I don't want to say that these aren't relevant criteria, because they are, but with the, I'll call it the apartments and houses, or the increasing density, allowing 3 units per single family semi and townhouse dwelling, the issues of compatible design and adverse impacts are, I would say, at least a very much a work in progress. And I'll talk briefly about that later. And I don't intend to go on too long here, but I felt it was important to have that discussion about where we are from a policy perspective, because it really is at a point where our neighborhoods are going to change. We looked at the zoning assessment that's in the Cuesta report against our own. They've identified the kind of relief they're looking forward to if council's willing to approve it. We would ask, if it's approved in the format that they've put forward, that we would be very careful in the bylaw to make sure we cover all provisions, especially once the lots are split. We need to cover off lot area, frontage, and so forth there. In the report, there's a picture of one similar type approach. I believe this is just a single family home, but it fronts on both Hagen and Gold. You can see it has an attached garage, quite a long building. I think there's more going in that neighborhood. So it's this sort of back-to-back semi-detached or fourplex, however you wish to define it. It seems to be kind of evolving in situations where you have these through lots and depths that are not quite 2 lots deep. So at 45 meters, or you'd usually like to see that lot for two dwellings fronting on each side to be 15 meters or 50 feet wider, 100 foot to each on the lots. So it's just an interesting little situation in the community, the way it developed over time. The next page, there's a sketch that we put together showing just one semi-detached building, 2 units fronting on Hagen Street. Hagen Street being the road that has water and sewer right now. Remember, Gold doesn't have it all the way down to the frontage of the lots. But this development option would see each semi having a fairly large garage at the back, perhaps access from Gold Street, and then an apartment above, quite a bit smaller apartment. That's the kind of housing you may see becoming more and more common over time in all neighborhoods that have full municipal services. The garage in the back, so the Planning Act would now allow a separate unit where there's full water and sewer in a building independent of the main building. So I think you can tell I'm kind of struggling to come up with a bit of a template or a standard that council can be comfortable with moving forward. And so I've introduced this here in this report because I thought it was an appropriate time to do that. But I would like to come back to you and talk to you about the Planning Act requirements allowing 3 units per property and how we might come up with a format that works. Because not only does the province basically allow or require municipalities to allow 3 units per property, it restricts what you can and can't do as far as design. So for example, it says you can't restrict gross floor area or the floor area of these units. So you can't say that these extra units have to be certain size. You also can't require more than 1 parking space per unit. So they're trying to take away situations where municipalities would regulate out 3 units per property by having very stringent site and building regulations. So when we apply this kind of, I would say, more open approach to density to this proposal, we came up with the one alternative with the semi-detached and the garage at the back. And subsequent to the Questa report coming in that you have, we entered into some discussions about, well, would this work as far as the semis? How are you going to address the concerns of the public? We do have that policy in the official plan that talks about integrating the built form. If you look at the 2 houses on either side, and it kind of shows in that sketch in the report, one of them kind of more orients towards Hagen Street and one more orients, although the driveway comes off Hagen, it sits way fairly far back on the lot. So so it's kind of a unique challenge, I guess, as far as what really does fit in or doesn't fit in quotes, between those 2 homes. Just a quick word on public services. There is municipal water and sanitary sewer. I mentioned that. We haven't identified any deficiencies other than they don't extend all the way down Gold Street, and Public Works comments talk about having to extend those through agreement, and that would include the roadway and the water and sewer. There isn't a turnaround, for lack of a better word, for municipal vehicles, emergency vehicles and such. So that always presents a challenge, but we are dealing with an existing community that, is going to experience probably a fairly steady growth of additional units, given the need for housing in the community. Normally, you wouldn't pick dead-end roads to increase density, but the density increase is coming regardless. We have a proposal here that, in terms of number of units, wouldn't be all that far off what the current provincial direction is as far as number of units per parcel. That provincial policy statement is reflected in the report further on. Talks about the 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years and other initiatives, including Bill 23, which I guess rather than apartments and housing, they call it as of right housing on urban lots. So that's where we sit in terms of the report that was prepared. Questa is here with their report, and I do have a drawing that that maybe I would like council to have a look at. And I wondered if Lindsay could share her screen for that drawing. It kind of takes the elements of what was outlined in our report and puts forward an alternative proposal. So it basically would split the lot in half, which was intended by Questa in their severance applications that Committee of Adjustment heard. It has 2 semis facing Hagen and 2 semis facing Gold Street. Each of those would have an attached garage within the dwelling. And the reason for that is it allows for a little additional parking. And I think they had a 9-meter front yard in both those lots proposed. Our suggestion is to drop that down to 6.5 meters. 6.5 meters is enough to park a car in front of that garage. So if you obviously have a person or a family with two vehicles, one would be in the garage and one would be in tandem or in behind that second one. So you achieve 2 parking spaces there. What this does have is it kind of aligns with the 2 homes on either side. And it does also have some outdoor living area. It's not a huge amount of outdoor living area, but at 4 meters, it would be room to have a patio and perhaps put a grill out behind, or even a hot tub or whatever, a place to sit and relax. Now you see that outdoor space kind of abuts on the sidewalls of the adjacent homes. So as far as access to light and air and so forth, with the kind of surrounded by building, it certainly would be well shaded a lot of the time, but it still would be outdoor space. And I feel like that's more in keeping with traditional neighborhood design. I think even in places that certainly we've been living at as an older couple, my wife and I, it's always nice to have a little bit of space to be outdoors, even though, especially if you can provide it and have a reasonable layout. So the only other thing I'll say about this is that we're suggesting that the semis that would face Gold Street, that zone would be a holding zone. And what the holding zone would say would be, basically it would have the same uses permitted as the lots facing Hagen Street, but they wouldn't be able to develop the lands until they reached agreement with the township on extending water, sewer, and road on Gold Street. But other couple of differences, I think they had a 2.1 meter setback on the sides. This pushes the building to 1.2 meters, which is about 4 feet on the sides. So that's enough room for people to access from the front yard into the backyard for maintenance and so forth. It is not as wide as the 2.1 meters, but the 2.1 meters that was being proposed was to be the amenity space for the people, and that amenity space is a little less functional, I suppose, than the 4 meter space that we're proposing in the backyards here. So Cuesta has that drawing. We had very brief interactions on whether that was acceptable. I think generally they feel like that would be something they could work with. I don't believe it would necessarily address all the concerns of the neighborhood, but in terms of parking, there would be inside parking within the attached garage. There is outdoor space, so there is some amenity there for people. It kind of fits in with where the 2 houses sit, as I mentioned, one facing or orienting more towards Gold and one orienting more toward Hagen. I think it's a reasonably good approach. I'm prepared to recommend coming forward with a bylaw like that. Cuesta is participating, Mayor Milne, in watching, and we had general discussions with the clerk about whether they would want to speak or be able to speak to this sketch or their information or my report. So unless there's any more questions of me, I would step aside for a moment and see whether you wish to hear from Cuesta further. I would say there was a last word, a letter from another neighbor who wasn't part of the original public meeting. Oh, sorry, not another neighbor, a member of the school council. And I think that was emailed to you yesterday, and it talks about concerns about safety primarily. So that's my presentation on this, just to let you know that things evolved to some sort of alternate sketch, and we're seeking your direction on it at this point.
Okay, thank you, Bill. That's quite a tiptoe through the flower garden, that report. Nonetheless, it's It's a good one. Lots to think about. Council, do you want to hear from the developer? To do that, we need to waive procedure. Monica? Well, what I'd like to do is if council wants to hear from Questa, we need to waive procedure. I'm seeing general agreement that that's probably a good thing to do. So moved by Monica, seconded by Barb. All those in favor? That is carried. So Genevieve, I think you were there earlier. Oh yeah, there you are. So yep, if you'd like to go ahead, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor Milne and members of council and staff. We're here primarily to answer any questions that council may still have of the application. As Mr. White did indicate, there has been some discussions between our staff and Mr. White with respect to a proposal that could be modified from the original proposal to address some of the concerns that were identified by members of the public, as well as some council members at the public meeting. So we've been working with Mr. White in regard to addressing some of those concerns, and we feel that the latest iteration as proposed by Mr. White is reasonable and does address most of the concerns that have been identified. So we have had an opportunity to speak to our client with respect to that modified proposal, which provides for the parking garage and also provides for the outdoor amenity space at the back of the units, which would be addressing some of the concerns related to the parking from members of the public and outdoor amenity space concerns from some of the council members. We've had an opportunity again to speak to our client in this regard, and there are no concerns with the approach that has been put forward by Mr. White. So although it's ours differed slightly when we looked to address some of the comments from members of the public as well as council, we had proposed a greater side yard setback at that point in time. We had an opportunity to look at the parking and demonstrate that there was sufficient parking. So we felt that our second round of the proposal also addressed some of the comments from members of the public and council. We're also happy with the compromise that can be reached through the proposal presented by Mr. White. So again, we're here primarily to answer any questions that might be outstanding, and we would like to move forward as suggested by staff in regard to the zoning amendment. Thank you. And if there are any questions, again, happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Genevieve. So to be clear, your client is okay with what Bill has proposed regarding the development?
That's correct. Yeah. So we had an opportunity to speak to our clients in this regard, and they have no concerns with respect to the approach presented by Mr. White. So we're happy to proceed with that. We feel it's a good compromise, and happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions? Monica, go ahead.
Thank you. It's just through you, Chair, to Mr. White or Ms. Scott. I'm just finding a little bit of struggle here because I did read the comments that did come in. There's a lot to say about having quality of life and the proposed comments with regards to the safety and the parking. We've had increased issues with bylaw matters surrounding parking in just general. I'm just wondering if you could comment or speak to that. It kind of almost is feeling like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole in some ways, and just trying to understand, that there's a time and place for everything. Yes, it is a time to have diversified housing portfolio in our growing community, but just wondering if this is the place to implement such a thing. Just because of the congested nature, I do have my children there as well, and it's already quite hectic. Kind of being like boots on the ground that way and seeing what's happening and staff and school and parents and everything, dogs, everything are trying their best to get around each other. And so just having that. So just taking a look at the general nature of neighbors with sometimes people not getting along. So with the close proximity, could these eventually become rental units? Will there be different people living in these locations at different times? There's a lot of, if that is the case, there's a lot of landlord tribunal issues that can arise in sense of things are sitting in the courts, not being resolved. These are all just thoughts that are coming, and things that I've just kind of been gleaning from and hearing about. If people have visitors during special occasions, while there be parameters that have been discussed regarding the parking, what if there's a birthday party? What if there's a funeral? When there's so much snow and you're not allowed to park on the roads, where will all the cars go? If there is a situation, there's just like, for me, a lot of questions that I wanted to kind of present back. Again, 100% about the portfolio diversifying for housing needs. This is the time, but is this the place? So I was wondering if you could help to speak to that.
Maybe I'll, if I could, Mayor Milne, take a stab at that one. If I had to summarize it, I would say it's probably not ideal, but I don't think we'll ever have ideal. I think what council needs to weigh is exactly what has been outlined by the councillor, and that is need for a diverse housing portfolio, whether this integrates with the neighborhood or not, what the provincial initiative is as far as allowing up to 3 units on every property. I speak a little bit in the report about repopulating neighborhoods and what things looked like many, many years ago, maybe when I was a kid, and families of 5 and up to 10 or more was fairly common. So you had, 10 people or 8 people living in a single family home. Here you might have 8 people living in 2 or in 4 homes. So it's just a chance to relook at how our neighborhoods function. And so what will happen here is if these homes go in like this and there's life going on with funerals and so forth, they'll just have to make it work like everyone does. The school is at a point in time where it's functioning, as far as I know it, way above capacity. Over time, that may change and students may move elsewhere. Communities change. So it's really hard to predict the potential impact of this. When people visit, when there's funerals, there'll probably be street parking, and you talk to your neighbors and everybody has to be careful of each other. What I do like about this, I guess, in terms of neighbors, is that it's set up to be home ownership, and it's a smaller lot with a fairly, I'll call it, sizable building footprint with 2 floors, so forth. So it's going to be attractive to people to try and buy, because you should be able to do it kind of at certainly the more moderate market space. So I know it's a long-winded answer. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it's coming to a neighborhood, all our neighborhoods all across Ontario. And I think we're just trying to, as the mayor said, tiptoe. I think it's a bit of a struggle to see what will our neighborhoods look like, how best can we adapt to it. And my personal feeling is this is the best compromise that we could find, balancing the need for housing versus impact on the community. And I don't think forever it would be, it's not ideal because there's no sidewalks, there's no turnaround, but I think people will just become neighbors and they will work a lot of these things out. And I think that this is about the best form that we could expect for this, as far as what's good planning and what's not good planning.
Thank you, Bill, for your comments. And you're right. If we lived in a perfect world, the Maple Leafs would win the cup every year, but we don't. So we have to live with what it is. I'm going to give Genevieve an opportunity. But Jim, I see his hand up first. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to bring to council's attention. We've carried in previous budgets before to loop Hagen and Gold. And this was based on another developer coming along and wanting to have lots developed on the north side of the end of Gold Street. So we have looked at it and design, and the process was going to be that we would have a gravel road that wouldn't be necessarily a full width, but enough that snowplows, collection trucks could circle around rather than be backing up. And that's our intention, to extend those roadways that way in the future. We would loop the water main, so there was no dead ends with the water main. Where we're stalled is the developers have to come to the table with their agreements to extend the sanitary and stormwater services at the end of Gold Street down. And that has never come to fruition. Again, we've had this for budgets, because we were told it's going to happen this year, and it hasn't. It's still in the 10-year capital, but I would have to look, but we pushed it down. It's like 6 years away because the developers just don't come to the table. So it's something we can address and will address, but need their buy-in.
Okay. Thank you for that background, Jim. Genevieve, do you want to chime in?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor Milne. I don't have too much more to add based on the comments from Bill. Just a couple things related to parking. So for the semi-detached as proposed by the final, or the last proposal that Bill and our office was working on, we're looking at two semi-detached that front onto Gold and Hagen. So when we look at density or intensity that's going to be on these properties, you're looking at really only one additional unit that would be fronting onto to Hagen at this point in time. So the level of intensity at this site is fairly minimal. Yes, it's a little bit more than the single detached that's located in this neighborhood, but it's a fairly minor intensification. So just something to consider there. The other thing that I would like to add is that with respect to the zoning for semi-detached units, the requirement for parking on site is two parking spaces. So all of these units will meet that requirement. So we're not asking for any type of on-site relief. We meet the zoning requirements for parking. So I think that's another important point to consider.
Thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you.
Barb, your question, and then Martin. Did you have your hand up, Martin, or no? Well, I'll come to you after Barb. Go ahead, Barb.
Thank you, through you. And a lot of concern. I echo Councillor Singh Soor's comment about, where do you put the snow? Where do people park? I would argue against the fact that we have less than 5 people per household living in these homes now. So many adult children are required to live at home because they can't afford a place of their own, or there isn't alternative housing for them. Because we live in rural Ontario, we get snow, and these adult children are commuting to work. They have vehicles because we don't have public transit. It's great for the public planning statement, or the provincial planning statement, to say that we should reduce the number of parking spaces per unit. As of right, 3 units per property. We have multiple families living in households because of lack of alternatives, more cars, more snow. And we are not Toronto or Mississauga or Brampton. We do need to take a rural lens when we are dealing with our community and what is right for Southgate. I understand the need, and I actually was more supportive of the other picture that you presented, Bill, where it was 2 lots, so 2 ownerships, where they would have the potential for an income property on the laneway suite. Basically, that's what the the elevated garage with the accessory unit would be termed as a laneway suite because it has its own access route. The servicing could then, because it's 1 lot ownership, the servicing could come from Hagan Street and service that secondary suite. As of right, you have the ability to put in another basement apartment in this semi. So, you know, in the grand scheme of things, saying we're allowing for 2 cars, but in reality, these households have more than 2 cars, and that's not our responsibility, I know. And we have to be able to look at the grand picture. If there were 2 lots, it would be an attractive property for someone to help pay the mortgage on that semi by having a rental unit or their family member having some private space and not living on top of one another. Not sure if that's even an option, but I know for a fact that our households in Dundalk and out in our rural community have more than 2.66 people living in them, and oftentimes more than 5 people living in them, upwards of 10 and 14 that I know personally. But so while I appreciate that we're still looking at 4 lots and we're giving them more like a townhouse feel backyard, which is acceptable, what prevents them from putting in those as of right 2 additional units? And I think we still have an issue, but providing an opportunity for those income properties helps make the purchase of a semi-detached home more affordable, more attainable, and long-term be able to afford, you know, all of the expenses that go along with that and the mortgage. That's my comment. I struggle with having to impose Toronto viewpoints in a rural setting when our circumstances are so much different. I'm not sure if there's anything that you can comment on that, Bill or Genevieve. There's not a real question in there, but was that even entertained where the semi would have the accessory dwelling above a garage detached and share that backyard space?
Bill, do you want to comment on that?
Sure, Mayor Milne, through you. I guess if you ask my preference, I suppose I like the one in my first report. But it does include rental housing rather than ownership. So, and it presents a different model where you have a home at the back of the lots and quite a bit of open space in between, which I liked. There's a lot of things I liked about that, but it presents a different financial model for the developers. So they didn't really comment on that layout. So other than in their second submission to you, they're basically standing by their original layout. So I think that's their comment on it. I mean, Genevieve may be able to expand on that, or obviously could. But as for if this were approved like this, and could each of those semis then have 2 more units in it, you are allowed to require 1 space per unit. So I would say that they would have to basically provide a entirely paved front yard or gravel front yard, and all the parking would be in the front. but they could get one more unit in each of those, say a basement or however they were to design it. So I don't think they'd ever get to 3. I think you could safely regulate it to 1 space per unit. They couldn't provide that with more than 2 units per semi. So you could, in theory, have 8 units on this property. And if you go back to the developer's proposal where everything was kind of attached, you would probably want to call it something other than semis in your bylaw, and then you wouldn't have the potential that as of right additional units would go on. So you can see where I guess I kind of struggled with it that way. I prefer, I suppose, the layout that I put in the my original report. But when you get to the as of right housing, if you do approve the semis, you're right. In theory, each person could come back that owns that semi and put a basement apartment or upper floor apartment, do a major renovation, whatever, and pave the front yard and have 2 spaces in the front yard, one for their tenant and one for themselves, plus the one in the garage. So that possibility emerges out of changing the layout to the way we've brought it forward to you. If you kept the layout that they had, they would not qualify under the as of right housing because we would call it something other than semis.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Genevieve, did you want to respond to that?
I don't have too much more to add from what Bill has provided, but just in terms of the layout that was proposed originally by Bill which showed the semi-detached with the possibility of an ADU in the back. You know, as we had noted in our comments back to Bill, when we had a chance to look at that proposal, there's just, well, first of all, we've received conditional approval for 3 consents at this point in time. So of course we would like to move forward with all of with 4 separate lots and 4 separate dwelling units. But just practically speaking, looking at a semi-detached with the ADU proposal in the back, I think this is a form of housing that we are more likely to see with established detached and semi-detached units. I don't see where there's going to be a lot of sort of purpose-built granny suites or ADUs coming out right from the gate, such as with this proposal. I don't think there's a lot of incentive for the developer to provide that type of housing. If someone were going to purchase a semi-detached and then build a garage or ADU in the back, that might happen, but I just don't think at this point in time, if there was an approval for a semi-detached only, there would be any incentive to build that out at this point in time. So it makes more financial sense for the developer to proceed with either the 4-plex or the 2 semi-detached as proposed by Bill in his last proposal.
Okay, thank you, Genevieve.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up then, lesson learned, maybe we should be holding the public planning meetings before the Committee of Adjustment meeting. Having said that, I am more comfortable with there being 4 meters of backyard space, more in line with what a townhouse complex might look like when you have those types of developments. If I could seek clarification on what the resolution is asking, because it's saying that we approve the development as outlined in the Public Planning Committee January 24th, or whether the applicant's consultant be asked to address issues of built form, etc. Is that not what this is doing?
Well, what I was going to do when we got to that point was ask the clerk if she could rewrite the motion to align with Bill's recommendation. And I think you probably have that crafted.
I don't actually, but,
Oh. But we can craft that.
we can craft that,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
We
So
can-
with that in mind, we'll proceed. Martin, you were next and then Monica, okay?
Yeah, it's just a comment. You know, you have to look at the housing where it's being put and financially for the builder to do that one long 4-unit makes sense. The question about having cars in the rentals with the garage main floor unit, you know, with a rental unit above, you know, they're okay too, but I find this one on the screen now is the best compromise. And if there is a holding pattern on those two, the builder can build those two on Hagen, which has the works, knowing full and well that when that work that Jim has mentioned is done, they have the holding thing and then they can build. So they're actually looking for not rental people. And if the person who buys it 10 years' time wants to put a basement apartment in, that's up to bylaw, I guess,
Yeah.
but you know, the issue with the cars. So I find that a good compromise, that's all.
Thanks, Martin. Monica.
Thank you. Just through you, Chair. Again, I just want to commend the homeowners for wanting to diversify their housing to meet the needs. Again, it's just, I'm having a little bit of a difficulty and struggle because once these things are approved, then everything that has to do with that dwelling place is available. So we have to, I think, I like that word tiptoe a little bit more. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm not just sure if this is the time for this to happen with the hopes that, you know, something with the school board will happen with the location. We don't know what that means. We're already having issues with the street that Public Works is trying their best to maintain the traffic flow. And then the intergenerational living is something that happens culturally. And we have diversified cultures coming up. So interdimensional people, you know, father-in-laws, grandparents, great-grandparents, cousins. So that's one aspect. The other one is that to the point of financial implications that people are moving back home at a higher rate than ever. A lot of people's home ownership aspirations is to be able to live in their parents' basements at this point, unfortunately, with the way things are going. So that is something that with the progression and projecting of how things will be going, yes, we do need to diversify. Again, this is completely objective. I really commend the homeowners for doing this. I'm not sure in the future if there is a need or if there is already a bylaw that could address having these requests for homes that are close to schools and just kind of avoiding that. I know it must cost lots of money and things like that to put proposals like this in and a lot of time and resources. So, I mean, that's another point probably down the line. Just one question I wanted to ask to Public Works Manager, just so I have a better understanding. I thank you, Jim, for, you know, kind of commenting on the developers about looping Golden Hagen. Just so I understood, are you saying that this would be a good thing to happen prior to changes, or you're saying this change could happen and then developers, just so I understood?
Jim?
Since the developer came along with the idea, then this was probably 5 years ago or so. We were in support. We want to loop that water main. We want to make our trucks and go around the loop rather than back up those streets, and it's a safety hazard. It's a matter of time, but we're not going to construct that street till the sanitary and storm is installed because they need to go, sanitary needs to go in first. And it doesn't have to go, the sanitary doesn't have to be looped all around. It just needs to go enough in front to accommodate the new developments on Gold Street. Same as the stormwater. The water main, it's going to be looped. That is our dime, the water main looping. But, and again, this won't be, it wasn't intended to be initially a paved road with sidewalks or anything like that. Gold Street would be extended services with sanitary and storm and sidewalk on the one side, which currently has. It would just be extension of those services on Gold. So I hope that helps you understand.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry, I'm just pretend I'm like my 6-year-old I drop off in the morning. So I apologize. You're such an expert. I guess like my question is, having that done prior to changes being made to a dwelling place, is that something that is a better thing for that? Or is it, is that kind of what you're saying? Sorry.
Jim?
Well, right now that the development on Gold is stymied because they don't have servicing in front of them. Hagen, there's servicing in front, it can be implemented. But until the servicing's extended, you can't construct that dwellings on Gold.
Hence,
Or you can't occupy them, there won't be no service.
right. Hence Bill's suggestion that it be a hold on this piece until those services are available. Jason?
Just to Jim, I'm not sure. I missed the committee of adjustment meeting. Is the same developer own this as some of these other lands where we'd want to loop it, or just curious?
Jim?
No, I don't believe so. And the developer that we were initially discussing this with, he was in the office a few weeks ago and he must have seen this file come up or something, because he said he should get talking to the other developer because it should be a cost share. Because it's both benefit for both of those.
Barb?
Thank you. And what I was going to actually ask kind of actually does tie into what Jim just mentioned. This is the difficulty when you're dealing with a numbered company, you don't know who you're dealing with. And so not understanding which developer, who's on first. But my question was going to be, with this developer, this numbered company, being required to bring services to this property, might light a fire under the other developer, because now he doesn't have to do, or he or she doesn't have to do it all the way down. And they got a fairly good deal on that option of that property to develop based on having to bring it. But unfortunately, in hindsight, we should have put a time limit on it, I suppose. But maybe if he's already been in and now we're putting the two developers together, they'll get together and share those costs. So that could be a win. My question to the planner would be, if this were approved, can we put in the agreement, or is there ability to prohibit additional residential units, since this 4-unit conversion is actually exceeding almost twice or more than what we normally would. So you said, Bill, that it was 58 units per hectare equivalent. Can we limit or prohibit basement apartments in these semis?
Bill?
Through you, Mayor Milne. I got to thinking about that after I came to the conclusion that if maybe we could call it something other than semis, but maybe, I don't know whether it would be enforceable, but I suppose if the developer agreed, we could work that into the servicing agreement for the site, that this is only for 4 total units. So I suppose we could try and work into the bylaw that something to that effect. If it were to be challenged, and someone bought one of those semis and, the as of right units are still allowed by the province in 10 years, could we stop it? It might be difficult, but I'd be certainly willing to chat with the developers and see if we could work that into there. I wouldn't want to give you the comfort that it would last forever, but it might be a way of, trying to put some limits on it. It's the unit you're going to have. Well, I don't want to say, because, you read all these articles about what people are having to live in these days just to find a place to be. So I would be prepared to enter into that discussion with the developer. I don't know whether Genevieve would have anything as far as the intent, if they would be willing to consider that.
Genevieve, do you want to comment?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Milne. We haven't had an opportunity to discuss this with our client. That being said, as of to date, we've had no indication from our client that there is any plan at this point in time to establish additional units on the site. Of course, they don't have any control over that once the units are sold to another landowner, but our office would be willing to explore whether or not there would be an opportunity to cap it through some type of servicing agreement, as Bill has suggested. We're certainly open to that, some discussions in that regard.
Okay, thank you. That's the heck of it, isn't it? We can't regulate what somebody might do. We can only regulate what they're proposing to do.
Mayor Millen, may
Yes,
I, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I just had another thought that a couple of things can certainly discourage that. First of all, the requirement that there be an attached garage takes up a good chunk of that lower floor space. And so I think with design, if we ensure that these basements are fairly far below grade or no basements at all, then the likelihood of a basement apartment is less. I don't know whether they intended to have a basement or not, but with the attached garage and then, having to do separations and so forth to physically establish the unit, I think there's ways with design and in the zoning that we could certainly make it pretty impractical. If you can imagine them having to build a set of steps in a 4-foot space, that they couldn't do that on the side to get up to the second unit. So how do they get into it? All that stuff, because they would have to meet the building code rules. So I think we could sort of discourage it dramatically depending on how we word the zoning. So, and you would see that when it came back. So I think,
Okay.
I just think it would be almost to the point where it wouldn't be possible to physically do it under the OBC.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So I see the clerk. The clerk has now posted on the
No,
screen.
sorry, that's the original one.
Oh, that's the original.
So we have, the amendment would be that we amend the clause to state that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw for consideration at the March 20th, 2024 council meeting, as generally outlined in the sketch considered during the meeting, with 2 semi-detached dwellings facing Hagan Street and 2 semi-detached dwellings facing Gold Street placed in a holding zone, and that council determine that no further notice be given on the proposed development pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act.
Okay. How does everybody feel about that? Because it is going to come back to us. All right. Go ahead. Yeah.
When you I've always referred to a semi-detached as a semi-detached is 2 units, but when you refer to 2 semi-detached, is that the correct terminology? Because 2 semis seems to me being 4 units.
Full disclosure, Bill wrote that
Oh.
motion for me. I think it's right.
All right, thanks. Thank you. And I never meant to question whether it was right or not, but
No, it's good.
just interpretation.
Yeah. It's
If I may, you're
just a
correct.
little bit more tiptoeing, that's all. Go ahead, Bill.
It should say, I guess, 2 semi-detached dwelling units. So yeah, semi-detached dwelling typically means 2. So in zoning, we often distinguish it by saying a semi-detached dwelling unit. So maybe that could be added to it. I don't know why Lindsay didn't anticipate that. So, but
she did. She was just waiting for you to say that. All right. So is someone? Oh, Jason, go ahead.
So I'm still not 100%. Can somebody explain what we're voting on exactly? Because I kind of get it, but I don't.
As I understand, well, maybe I'll ask the clerk to do it. Then it'll be.
Yeah, maybe if Holly, if you want to put that back on the screen, if you can.
So we have the original motion as it's here, and the amendment.
Yeah, so we're amending
And the
to,
amendment is going to reflect what's on the screen here.
correct.
Yeah.
And we'll, since this was a new addition at the meeting, we'll update, like we'll upload this with the minutes and everything, but
Yeah.
the motion is the bylaw will be brought back based on this sketch.
Right.
Isn't it clear?
So we're not approving the bylaw today.
No,
We're asking staff to bring back a bylaw reflecting this proposal. Go ahead.
I said clarification, Chair, just through the earlier point about the holding zone, is that, so will Jim's concerns be addressed by the developer soon? Or was that already
The
answered?
bylaw will reflect the hold
Yeah.
on this one. So it can't be built currently
Okay.
until the services are available. Once the
Okay.
services are available, then the developer can apply to remove the hold and proceed with his build.
And will he get the conversation he's asking for?
Bill or Jim will get anything he asks for.
Okay. I want to make sure because he's bringing up such a great point. So I just want to, because he said it's been years that he didn't get a response. So I don't know who that's for.
Jim, maybe you want to, I don't know.
I was just kind of saying, like, I completely understand that your request to the developer to get those answers you need. So I'm not sure if that's to Bill or Genevieve or to you that can somebody please answer Jim? Whatever questions he's asking, because you said it was 5 years or so that you haven't heard back. Or-
Initially, this proposal came to us and we sold some land to make this happen. And divert the culvert system was on the proponent as well to make those lots happen. And we were in support of that. So again, it's just been sitting there on idle, not doing anything. So we are not progressing with our works until they come to the table and say, we're ready to go. And we have an agreement on cost share. The cost for the storm and the sewer is all on the developers. So before, back in the day, 5 years ago, they would have had to went through an ECA amendment application for the sanitary and the storm sewer servicing. Now that can be under the umbrella of our new system, which is CLI ECA, which a professional engineer design stamped gives us that information. It's built that way and it's incorporated right in with our own ECA. So they're not separate anymore. It's a new process, and it's easier for the developer. They don't have to go through a year or two of red tape to get that. It's pretty much under design. It's ready to go. So it's, again, we don't take the developer by the hand and say, it's time to do this. Like, it's up to them to come to us when they're ready. So we have somebody ready on the other side of the street now. So they need to get in the sandbox together and figure it out and come to us. And we have support. We want to do this. So.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Barb.
Realizing that this has nothing to do with the previous agreement, but with this agreement, is there a time limit? Must occur within 2 years, or to set that at least this development in motion, or they would have to come back? I know that there's a time lapse sometimes on various
Lindsay?
holds.
Lindsay, you clarify that?
I'll defer to Bill to clarify that.
Oh, Bill?
If I may, there's two mechanisms. The holding zone would stipulate that there be a signed agreement registered on title regarding servicing. And I think Quest has heard very clear that they'll be looking for some form of contribution to the looping around. And also the conditional approval on the severance, I believe, also requires a servicing agreement to deal with those units facing Gold Street. And under those provisions, under the Planning Act, they have 2 years to meet those conditions. So if it doesn't happen within 2 years, they won't get the separate lots, and therefore the development wouldn't go ahead on Gold Street. They could, in theory, build the ones facing Egan, though. But yeah, they would not get anything facing Gold, and their severance would expire in 2 years.
Thank you, Bill. So Genevieve, I saw you turn your microphone on. Was that to say that you agree with Bill?
Well, I would just make a note that if the conditions of severance indicate that the requirement is to enter into the servicing agreement itself, I think the language in the servicing agreement could identify a sunset clause. So the condition would be to enter into that agreement and have it registered on title or however we want to handle it. And then the agreement itself would identify whether or not there's a sunset clause.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Go ahead. Yeah.
Just one more. Lindsay, you mentioned in the resolution, the amendment that you spoke, that no further circulation would be required. The people who have made comment and asked with regard to be notified, would they receive notification of this latest endeavor?
Through you, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but they wouldn't receive notice until it's the notice of passing of the bylaw if they requested notice of that. So I think that you'd have to direct us to send note, like you're wanting them to be notified that this different proposal is coming forward. Is that what?
Through you to Lindsay. Yes, I was thinking that those people who did take the time to express their concerns in writing and or in person be notified that a bylaw would be coming forward with this new proposal at the March 20th meeting. And then it's up to them to watch for what that means.
So how it's stated now, we wouldn't be providing further notice. It would just be brought to the next meeting.
And we don't have a mover and seconder on that amendment, correct?
Not yet, no. So it can be changed and we can provide notice.
I would like to see that those who have commented be notified. But I agree that if the terminology was to recirculate and notify all of the property owners, then that's not what I intend. Those who have commented or expressed to be, who are following along, they receive that. So that I would appreciate that. And if that were incorporated, then I would move that motion, that amendment.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for? Yeah, Martin will second. Okay, we have an amendment in front of us. Any further questions on the amendment? Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Now we're back to the original motion as amended. We have a mover and seconder. Any further discussion? Jim, or are you moving? You move, okay, moving the amended motion. Is there a seconder?
That's already been moved.
It's already been moved.
It's already been moved. Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion?
Could we have a recorded vote?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Madam Clerk.
A recorded vote has been called for the main motion as amended. Councillor Shipston,
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson,
Yes.
Mayor Milne,
In favor.
Councillor Singh Soares,
No.
Councillor John,
No.
Councillor Rice,
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne.
Yes.
By a vote of 4-3, that has carried.
Thank you. It's Deputy Mayor DeBreen, actually, Madam Clerk. You said Deputy Mayor Millen,
Oh my
so
gosh, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
It's when I used to call you Mayor Woodburn.
And you were demoted to deputy mayor.
No, well, it's not a demotion at all. Not at all. It's probably a promotion.
This is actually funny. My recorded vote sheet says Deputy Mayor Milne, so I was reading it.
There you go.
To update that.
Excellent. All right. So to be clear, that did pass. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
4-3.
Okay, thank you very much. Absolutely. The bylaw still has to come forward for approval. So I thank Genevieve for attending today. Thank you very much, Genevieve.
Thank you
And
for the
thank you, Bill, for
opportunity.
your input here and the tiptoe through the flower bed. Thank you. All right, we're wearing down the meeting here. Bylaws and motions. We have one bylaw to deal with a road widening. Would someone care to move that, please? Martin and Jason, thank you. Any discussion? Jim, do you have anything to add regarding the bylaw? No? Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We have no notice of motion. At least I don't believe there is any. No. Consent items. We have Quite a little list of consent items there. The first section is regular business. Would anyone require any of those to be removed for further discussion? Not seeing any, would someone please move the acceptance of all those items there? There's 5 of them there. Barb, second by Jim. All those in favor? Discussion, go ahead.
Just checking to see if this is the one I wanted to ask.
It's good to know. Good to ask. Good to be sure. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving those items? That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to correspondence for information. Is there any of those 3 items wish to be removed for discussion? Seeing none. Someone care to move acceptance of those? Monica, seconded by Jim. Thank you. Any items for discussion? Monica? Oh, okay, for the next one. Yeah. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Resolutions from other municipalities. There's a number of them there. Would anyone wish any of those removed for further discussion? Monica?
Thank you through you, Chair. I don't think it's a through you, but yes, Plimpton, Wyoming, 11.3.1
Okay,
to be pulled.
okay, thank you. Any others? Could someone move acceptance of the other remaining items, save and accept 11.3.1? Martin, thank you. Second, Jim. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we do have a closed session, but let's deal with 11.3.1 now while we're here. So, Monica.
Thank you, Mayor. Just through you, Chair. This is basically just a long story short, because I know time is going. The council, just trying to read this properly here. Basically, it's about the carbon tax. So the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, at its meeting on February 14th, passed the following motion supporting the resolution from Sarnia with regards to, I'm just getting to the whereas, apologize there. Therefore, be it resolved that Sarnia Council write a letter to the federal government strongly urging them to cancel the carbon tax, which is financially hurting our citizens at a time when affordability concerns are at an all-time high, to ease the financial inflationary pressure on our citizens. If we have not already done so, and I'm going to be quite open, I've never done this part before, but I would ask if Southgate would participate in supporting this.
Well, if you'd like to make a motion in that regards, we can see if there's a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to make a motion for us to support it.
That we support the city of Sarnia's adoption of that motion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Jason, thank you. Any discussion? Barb?
Through you and to Councillor Singh Soor's question, have we done anything similar already with regard to the carbon tax? I can't recall myself even, so.
Well, just to be clear, though, the motion is to send a letter asking the federal government to, or supporting the city of Sarnia's letter to, even if we have done something in the past, it can't hurt, right?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay, good. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Mayor. One more. Sorry, it's just about the Frontenac, the volunteer firefighters. I apologize. That was a item
Go ahead.
11.3.2.
Yep.
I do apologize again. I'm not sure if we already have something like this in place, but Frontenac, they are thank you all for bearing with me, as this is really now it's my second time in the same moment. They had a resolve there that the council of the County of Frontenac calls upon the Government of Canada to support Bill C-310 and enact amendments to the Income Tax Act to increase the amount of tax credits for volunteer firefighting and search and rescue volunteer services from 3,000 to 10,000, and that a copy of this be forwarded to the fire chiefs and so forth. Again, I'm not sure if that's something that we already do support, but if the council would see that that's something that they'd be interested in, I certainly would be. It's a very important topic.
Well, I guess
Yeah? Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to make a ruling that
Yes.
you missed your chance on that one,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
but that's okay. If in the future you wish to bring something forward, by all means do that. But for now, I think we'll proceed on the basis that That motion has already been received.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I actually did want to speak to that item, and I'm pretty sure that we'll probably be getting additional resolutions coming from other municipalities in the future. So we probably haven't lost the total
We may have
opportunity.
another go at it.
But I did also want to mention that like I'm supportive of their tax credits being increased. Back in probably 2000.
But
Oh, that's right.
We've
We can't
already-
even speak to it. That's
right.
right.
Just if I might,
Sorry.
Mayor
Yeah,
Milne,
go ahead.
we have had these, the clerk's department's been receiving a lot of these. I believe we've had them on previous agendas, but if not, I can put another one on the next one and it can be discussed there.
Sure.
We have been receiving a lot of these.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We do have a closed session. Be it resolved that council receive the items on the closed session consent agenda. Wait,
It's just a consent item, Mayor Milne.
help me with this one, Madam Clerk.
So
Or-
we always have the consent agenda
Yes,
as regular
yes,
business.
yes.
Correspondence, resolutions, and closed consent.
Yeah.
So this item is a closed consent. We don't have them often. So this is just provided to council as information. We're not actually moving into a
Right.
closed session
Okay.
meeting. It's just
Right.
provided to council for information
So
unless required.
if there's any discussion required, then we must go into
That's
closed
correct,
session.
yes.
Correct, fair. Okay, all right. So the motion is, be it resolved, the council receive the items on the closed session consent agenda dated today. And the motion is litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically ongoing litigation. And that item was in your closed session package. So everyone has read it, I'm sure. Would someone care to move it, please? Barb, seconded by Monica. Thank you. Well, do we need to go in closed session? No, everybody understands. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. County report. Barb, anything? No?
Just watch the video.
Just watch the video. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's good. Members privilege, good news and celebrations. Anybody? Monica, go ahead.
Okay, I have to get something.
Absolutely.
This is very important, so I wouldn't mess up my hair for just anything. So I'm gonna put it on. So this is the coldest night of the year. So recently, in the heart of chilly evening that marks the coldest night of the year in Grey Highlands, I had the honor of standing alongside residents of Southgate, participating in an event that embodies the essence of community support and empathy for those facing hardships. This gathering, more than just an event, was a powerful reminder of the resilience and compassion that flourishes when we come together for a common cause. So through the gracious collaboration with United Way Grey Bruce, I was provided with these toques as a symbol of warmth and unity to distribute among my fellow council members. So I would never come without giving it to you guys too. So here they are here. And we'll have one for you, Joan, no problem. And yeah, so I wanted to make sure we brought these all back. Again, these are symbols of warmth and unity to distribute amongst you all. And they're not just articles of clothing, but emblems of our shared commitment to the well-being of our community. They serve as a tangible reminder of the impact of the coldest night of the year event and the critical work undertaken by the United Way Grey Bruce to support those in need. So just inspired by the solidarity and support witnessed in Grey Highlands, I'm motivated to bring this initiative closer to home to Southgate, which I think would be really great to get us all out again in the cold, not just for the Holstein Parade and Dundalk Parade, but also for coldest night of the year. And it's my hope that we can continue to foster this same sense of community and purpose, rallying around township to support the vulnerable and underdeserved among us. So I just look forward to sharing these toques with my colleagues on the council as a gesture of our collective support for vital causes. Let these toques be a symbol of our dedication to not only recognizing the needs within our community, but actively participating in addressing them. Together, we have the power to bring warmth, support, and positive change, proving that even in the coldest nights, the strength of our community shines brightest. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. And they're really, really good toques. So
Thank you, Monica, and I commend those that organized the event and those that participated. So excellent, excellent. Anyone else? Barb?
Well, I did want to congratulate our mayor, Brian Milne, as warden of Grey County, being acknowledged by Bruce Power at the Nuclear Innovation Conference for leadership, a leadership award alongside other wardens of the same.
Bruce and Huron.
Bruce and Huron. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And did want to mention that Black History Month closed up on Saturday with a spectacular ceremony, afternoon of entertainment, community, and where over 85 people shared in a delicious meal, free to the community, thanks to the generosity of so many organizations, including our own Councillor Joan John through her Junction Community Initiatives initiative. And also just to announce that the Dundalk Little Theatre is holding a murder mystery dinner theater on April 27th. Tickets are $40 each, and there are tables of 10 if anyone wants to coordinate a group of people. Those tickets will be going on sale shortly. Oh, and it's being held at the Legion in Dundalk.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. And again, I want to commend those that organized the Black History Month, in particular, our own Joan John at the Junction. So thank you all for organizing and all those that participated. For sure, it was a great month. Monica, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more thing. Last year, by your suggestion, and I think Councillor Rice talking about the Maple Fest, and I went on about it, and I even made a video ziplining, and my life was on the line, but I did it because it was so much fun. So Ray Love, he gave me a whole bunch of these Maple Fest flyers, which I've been distributing through Dundalk, and everyone's wondering what it is. And it's April 13th and April 14th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it was great seeing Mayor Millen, and I think there was other council members, Councillor Rice, and if anyone else was there, I apologize, but when I got off the wagon, they were there to take us off, and they're volunteering, and it was amazing, and they don't toot their own horn, so I'll just do that for them. And the breakfast is amazing. It's an amazing event. It's a great way to drive through Holstein, anyone in the Dundalk area. And I strongly, strongly recommend it. The admission for elementary students is free. Adults and high school students is $10, and it's about 4 weeks out. So please make sure that you attend and make it bigger than it was last year. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And if anybody from council wants to volunteer, contact Ellie Adams. She'll direct you to where you might be needed. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. We don't have a closed meeting. Confirming bylaw. Someone care to move that, please? Monica, seconded by Jim. All those in favor? That is carried. One motion left. Jim and Barb, all those in favor? We're adjourned.